welcome to my channel. She was supposed to be just a medic, quiet, overlooked, carrying bandages instead of bullets, until an ambush in the Iron Valleys revealed the truth she'd buried. When the SEALs saw her pick up a rifle, everything changed. What they thought was luck was lethal precision, and the legend of Ghost Lance was reborn. You never forget the sound of bullets slicing through the air. Not if you've ever been pinned down, dirt erupting inches from your face, wondering if your next breath might be your last. And that day, in the Iron Valleys outside Marjani, I remembered everything I'd ever tried to forget. Medics patch wounds. They don't fight battles. Stay clear of the line. One of the SEALs barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. I said nothing, just held tighter to my medical pack, hugging it like it might shield me from the storm. Around me, hardened men returned fire, their movements sharp and sure. They'd been trained for war. I'd been trained to save what were tried to break. But war doesn't care for training. And that day, it broke loose in all directions. They called me Lana Vega, 30 years old, brown-skinned, wiry frame, short-cropped curls always tied back, and a red cross stitched to the arm of my dust-stained uniform. Technically, I was there for aid and extraction, not combat. Never combat. From the moment I joined the unit at Forward Outpost Kilo, I was the one they didn't think twice about. Too light to carry stretchers, too quiet to inspire confidence. Just another fragile medic, buried in the rear while the real soldiers pushed forward. I'd hear it on marches. She slows us down. Can't even see her under all that gear. I carried a 35-pound pack without complaint. Walked behind the unit, always making sure my boots didn't trip anyone up. But when the ambush came, I didn't walk. I ran. We'd been escorting a relief convoy through the pass when fire opened from the high ridges. Precision shots, like they'd been waiting for us. We took cover behind a cluster of overturned supply trucks. Dust clouded the air. Men were screaming, bleeding. I crawled between them, dragging bodies, pressing gauze, whispering reassurance even when I had none to give. A young SEAL, barely out of training, grabbed my arm. "Stay back. This isn't your place." I didn't reply, just bowed my head and held pressure to a femoral artery before the bleeding man beneath me bled out. Around us, gunfire screamed. It didn't stop. Someone muttered nearby, "She'll fold under pressure." Medics always do. But I didn't fold. I triaged faster than some of their seasoned corpsmen. My hands were stained with blood, my breath steady. I prioritized the worst cases first, moving like I'd done it 100 times before. Because I had. A sergeant, shrapnel buried deep in his arm, looked up at me while I bound it tight. "You've been in firefights before, haven't you, Doc?" I didn't look up. "Enough," I answered. Then I moved on. But they were watching me now. Not just the wounded. The others. The ones still fighting. One by one, they started noticing how I moved. How I didn't flinch when rounds cracked overhead. How I anticipated where the next man would fall. How I was already moving before the shots even landed. "Doc," one called. "Get your head down. You're going to get yourself killed." "I know where they're shooting from," I replied. That stopped him. "How could you possibly?" I didn't explain. I just kept working. What none of them understood, what I'd made sure no one knew, was that I hadn't always been a medic. That rifle they saw lying in the dust beside me, that wasn't just another weapon to me. It was a decision I'd already made years ago. One I'd sworn I'd never make again. But that ridge was closing in. The enemy had momentum. And when the grenade landed near me, ripping apart my kit, flinging gear across the dirt, I saw that rifle again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I dropped the torn remnants of my bag and wrapped both hands around the weapon. Heavy. Familiar. Dangerous. "Think holding that means you can shoot it?" A SEAL scoffed nearby. I said nothing. I lifted it to my shoulder. 3 shots. 3 men down. Silence. Not from the enemy, but from the men around me. Their weapons lowered. Their jaws slack. No one spoke. The silence said more than they ever could. The squad leader, a hard-eyed man named Reyes, narrowed his gaze. "That wasn't luck," he said. "Who the hell are you, Vega?" And just like that, the questions started. But the answers would have to wait. Because this fight wasn't over. And I wasn't done. Reyes didn't ask again, not right away. Not while the fight still raged around us. But I saw it in his eyes every time I moved. Suspicion. Confusion. Maybe even fear. I didn't blame him. I'd just turned the tide of a firefight with the kind of shots that don't come from luck or instinct. They come from training. Elite training. The kind that takes years. The kind no medic's file should ever contain. But I didn't offer explanations. I went back to my duties. I wrapped wounds with the same bloodstained hands that had pulled the trigger. My heart didn't race. My breathing stayed steady. And maybe that scared them more than the shooting. "You back to playing nurse now," a grizzled SEAL named Russo muttered as I tied off a compression bandage. "If that's what you think this is," I said calmly, "you haven't been paying attention." He blinked. Didn't reply. But others had started whispering. Not just about the shot. About everything. The way I moved under fire. The way I never once stumbled in the chaos. The way I seemed to know things no one had told me. One of the corpsmen leaned in as I wrapped his thigh. "Ma'am," he asked cautiously, "this isn't just med school work. Where do you really learn trauma care?" I looked him in the eye. "Experience." "What kind?" The silence between us said more than any answer I could give. He nodded slowly, like he understood. Or maybe just didn't want to press. But not everyone was content with silence. When the enemy regrouped and pushed again, harder, this time, I didn't wait to be asked. I grabbed the rifle, slipped behind a collapsed ridge wall, found a vantage point, and fired. My first shot dropped a gunner more than 400 meters out. My second silenced a marksman nesting in a broken tree stump, whose line of fire had pinned our flank for 20 minutes. "Vega, how the hell did you even see him?" Reyes demanded. "You learn to notice what others miss," I said. "When?" he asked, stepping closer. I didn't answer, just sighted my next target. This time, I didn't miss either. No wasted ammo. No careless exposure. Each movement smooth, deliberate, precise. Even my breathing matched the rhythm I'd once been drilled to maintain under pressure. And now, that training I had buried so deep, hidden behind a medic's badge and bandages, it all came roaring back. Reyes wasn't the only one watching now. The rest of the team began falling into line behind my actions. When I moved, they moved. When I barked an order, "Patch him first, cover that angle, move your fire left," they obeyed. It happened slowly, almost unconsciously, but I saw the shift. One of them finally said it out loud. "She's not just treating wounds. She's running the defense." And they were right. I had to be both. The medic and the marksman. The one who heals and the one who ends threats before they multiply. That wasn't something I wanted. It was something the moment demanded. A corpsman nearby, clutching a wound to his side, watched me adjust my scope and whispered, "You've done this before. All of it. Haven't you?" I didn't look at him. "Does it matter?" He didn't reply. The truth was creeping in. Not because I said anything, but because I couldn't hide it anymore. Not when I was calling angles for suppressing fire. Not when I was lining up kill shots in the middle of triage. Not when I was positioning wounded soldiers behind cover while barking commands like a field captain. Reyes finally cornered me again. "Vega, I need the truth. Your file says standard medical corps. But what I've seen, that's not a medic. That's special ops." I wiped sweat from my brow. Sometimes, the file doesn't tell the full story. He stared at me. "So what is the story?" Before I could answer, the next barrage hit. He didn't ask again. Not that day. But the truth? It wasn't going to stay buried much longer. The enemy surged again. Heavier this time. More aggressive, more coordinated. As if they, too, sensed that something had shifted in our squad. I slung the rifle and moved fast between wounded, weaving through the debris with practiced instinct. Bandages, morphine, cover fire. Each task flowed into the next. My hands moved as if wired to the rhythm of war. It felt sickeningly familiar. Then came a moment I hadn't wanted to face. One of our comms specialists took a shot to the chest. His vest stopped the round, but the impact knocked him unconscious, and the radio he carried with it was the last one we had in working order. "Comms down," someone shouted. "We're blind." Another SEAL cursed. "We need air support. We're boxed in." I glanced at the ridgeline. The enemy was closing in again, adjusting faster now. They'd seen us shift. They'd seen the girl with the rifle. They were coming for me. I dragged the comms tech into cover and checked for breathing. Still alive. Just out cold. I turned and saw Reyes crouched behind an overturned Humvee, eyes darting between the firefight and me. He met my stare. "What do we do?" That was the moment I felt it. The weight of a decision I had run from for years. I could stay silent, keep hiding behind the medic patch. Or I could do what needed doing. What only I could do. I slid the rifle onto a higher perch. From here, I had full visibility. A narrow angle, long range, with heavy crosswinds, shots no one here should attempt. I attempted them. One by one, I dismantled their advance. Leaders first, machine gunners second, radio men last. Not to kill the line, to kill coordination. Every shot served a purpose. It wasn't a firefight anymore, it was chess. The squad around me noticed. She's not just a shooter, one SEAL muttered. She's carving the field. Another nodded. This is surgical. She's calculating entire engagements. A younger SEAL, fresh out of BUD/S, whispered, that ain't just instinct. That's muscle memory. This is someone who's been there before. Way before. By the time the enemy fire began to taper, Reyes moved beside me again. His voice was quiet this time, not confrontational. You're not going to tell me who trained you, are you? I didn't answer. But then a nearby soldier, one-eyed patched earlier, caught a glimpse of my forearm when I rolled up my sleeve to clean a wound. He stared. Is that a tattoo? Faded, but unmistakable. An emblem I thought I'd buried forever. Reyes saw it too. His eyes widened. No way. That's Ghost Lance. Silence fell over the nearby group. Ghost Lance wasn't a unit. It was a myth. Or so they thought. An elite marksmanship team dissolved 5 years ago. Files sealed. Most assumed disbanded after a failed mission went dark. The few who knew the stories whispered of long-range kills at impossible distances, battlefield command in zero-signal environments, and a lead shooter who walked away after losing her team. My heart was pounding. Not from the fire. From being seen. You were Ghost Lance 1, Reyes said, stunned. That was you. I nodded. Once. And the weight of the past, the silence I'd carried, finally landed in full force around us. He sat back, taking it in. You quit. I walked away, I said quietly. Because taking lives was never supposed to be the part of me I kept. The rest of the squad gathered near enough to hear, none daring to interrupt. They weren't just listening to a medic now. They were hearing the past of someone they'd nearly let die underestimating. One of the newer SEALs finally spoke. Why not tell anyone? I looked out across the valley. Smoke rising, fires dying, enemies scattering. Because I wanted to be someone who saves lives, not someone who takes them. And yet, Reyes said, his voice low with respect, you just saved ours. All of them. I didn't reply. I just picked up the rifle. Because it wasn't over yet. The final wave was coming. And this time, I would not hide who I was. The ridge fell silent, the kind of silence that never lasts in a fight. Just the brief inhale before the next exhale of hell. We all knew it. The last wave was coming. I scanned the horizon. My fingers adjusted the scope, corrected for the wind, recalculated angles without thinking. The SEALs had moved to new cover under my direction. Whether they realized it or not, they were following my lead now. I wasn't just the medic anymore. Reyes crouched beside me, voice barely above a whisper. What happened to Ghost Lance? I didn't answer right away. My eyes were locked on the ridgeline. 7 went in, I finally said. Only I came out. Bad intel. No backup. No way out. He nodded slowly. They said the unit dissolved after some op went dark in Nurak. Nurak was the end, I said. I didn't break under fire. I broke after. He understood. Didn't press. Another SEAL called from down the slope. They're regrouping. North Ridge, fast movers. I sighted in. He wasn't wrong. This time they weren't creeping. They were charging. Dozens. Fewer than before, but fast, armored, and angry. They know, I said. They figured out who's shooting. You sure? Reyes asked. They're gunning straight for me, I said. That's how I know. I dropped into prone and lined up. My rifle rested perfectly along a cracked boulder, the muzzle steady as stone. The first shot shattered a spotter's scope on the far ridge. The second found the throat of a charging officer shouting orders. I moved mechanically now. Fire. Breathe. Shift. Fire again. Each shot hit clean. They're locking onto you, someone yelled. Good, I said. That means they're not shooting at you. Reyes looked at me, almost in disbelief. You're using yourself as bait. No, I said. I'm using myself as a distraction. There's a difference. The squad began to move under the cover I gave them. For every round I fired, they repositioned. Better angles. Better cover. Wounded dragged to safer ground. Ammo redistributed. I wasn't just fighting. I was orchestrating. And the enemy couldn't keep up. A machine gun nest went down. A mortar position silenced. A command radio taken out with one well-placed round through the antenna. Reyes muttered, "I've seen battle-hardened teams collapse under this pressure. But you're guiding a whole field like it's choreography." I didn't reply. My breathing was even. My pulse low. My aim unshaken. One of the corpsmen crawled to me under cover. "Ma'am, your grouping's tighter than any sniper I've seen." "I was trained by the best," I said. "Now I use it for something better." "You were the best," he corrected. "We looked up your record before they sealed it." That made me pause. Not because I cared they knew, but because I tried so hard not to be that person again. But here I was. Not because I wanted to be. Because I had to be. Another surge came. This one close. Too close. Backline suppressing fire. I ordered. "Reyes, push the flank. Cut their sight lines." They moved fast, executing as if I were their commanding officer. Not a medic. Not an afterthought. A leader. A rifle barked near my ear, too close. One SEAL had taken a hit trying to cover me. I spun, dropped my rifle, and caught him before he hit the ground. "Stay with me," I told him, dragging him behind cover. "You're not dying today." Blood gushed from a neck wound. I clamped down, one knee on his chest, my fingers working fast. "You're doing surgery and fighting at the same time?" a nearby soldier asked, stunned. "If I don't," I said, "he bleeds out." I didn't stop to think. Just switched modes. Tourniquet. Gauze. Seal. Pressure. Then I snapped back to the rifle and fired 2 shots in rapid succession. One took out the shooter who had dropped my patient. The second hit the enemy medic trying to rally their wounded. Everything was blurring together now. The healer and the killer. The calm and the storm. Reyes shouted from below, "Vega, we've got wounded on the south slope." "Cover me," I replied, and darted downslope, rifle slung, medkit swinging. Bullets hissed past, but none touched me. They never did. Not when I was in that mode. I reached the next man, patched him, fired 2 more shots, then moved again. The rhythm of war. Familiar. Deadly. And yet, somehow alive. Behind me, the squad moved with new purpose. They didn't question me anymore. They followed. Because when your life's on the line, and the world is burning, you don't care what someone's badge says. You follow the one who can get you out. And I was that someone. Again, the final wave was crumbling, but not fast enough. They'd thrown everything at us. Drones, explosives, shock troops. But when their leaders dropped, when their medics fell, their cohesion cracked. Still, they weren't quitting. Not yet. And now they had a new objective, me. One of the newer SEALs called it in. They've zeroed in on Vega. Multiple tangos, pushing her location. Reyes looked toward the ridge where I was perched, rifle steady against the stone. "They're coming for you." I didn't flinch. Then they're walking into the one place I've prepared. Because I had. What no one else saw, what I hadn't let anyone see, was how I'd been shaping this fight from the moment it started. Not just with bullets, but with movement, placement, momentum. Triage zones. Chosen for elevation and defilade. Rifle nests. Set along choke points where terrain gave advantage. I didn't just react to the enemy. I dictated the terms of the battlefield. And now it was time to finish it. I switched rifles, reaching for the old Woodstock DMR tucked in my bag. Heavier, slower, but deadlier at mid-range. The SEALs near me blinked as I dropped into stance again. One whispered, "She's about to write the ending." 3 shots. 3 more drops. Their point man hesitated, and I knew I had them. Doubt is deadly. Doubt makes you slow. And in war, slow is fatal. Behind me, the wounded were stable. Triage was holding. The ammo had been redistributed. And for the first time since the ambush began, we had high ground, clarity, and control. But I was exposed. I felt it in my spine before I saw it. A sniper's glint from the far west ridge. A flash of metal. Barely a shimmer. They'd brought a counter-sniper. I exhaled slow. Calculated. I knew the shot was coming. I knew I couldn't move in time. So I didn't try to dodge. Instead, I baited him. I leaned half a foot too far out, offered a false angle, then ducked just before the shot cracked. The bullet clipped the rock inches above my head. I sighted in, and returned the favor. The sniper's scope shattered as the bullet pierced his eye socket clean. 1 round. 1 motion. 1 less threat. And then, like clockwork, the radio crackled. Eagle Net reporting. "You've got reinforcements inbound. ETA 7 minutes." Cheers erupted across the line. Even Reyes exhaled in relief. Looks like we're not dying today. No, I said. You never were. He looked at me, brow furrowed. You always believed that. I looked down at my blood-stained hands. My rifle beside my pack. The wounded lined in rows behind us. I didn't have the luxury not to, I answered. Reyes nodded slowly, then crouched beside me. Tell me one thing. Honestly. I met his gaze. That kill shot. The sniper, across 700 meters. Iron sights. You've done that before, haven't you? I hesitated. Then I lifted my sleeve again, exposing the faded ink beneath. It wasn't just a ghost lance mark. It was the insignia of something even deeper, a special program long dissolved. A circle of marksmen trained in silence, deployed in shadows, erased from every record but one. He stared at it. I've seen that once before. Black Echo? I nodded once. His voice dropped. They said only one member survived that fall in Nurak. That she vanished afterward. Went off-grid. She did, I said. She was you. She was, I replied. But she doesn't exist anymore. Not unless she's needed. Reyes looked down the slope. Well, today she was needed. The last of the enemy was in retreat now. Limping. Crawling. Disorganized. They hadn't just lost the fight. They'd lost to someone they didn't see coming. Someone they never would have seen at all, if the need hadn't been great enough. Someone they thought didn't exist. I stood slowly, my knees aching, my heart heavy. And I said softly, I'm not proud of what I can do, but I'm proud of what I did. Behind me, the men I'd saved stood in silence. Not because of fear, because of respect. And it was the first time I truly felt seen. The cleanup took hours. Blood soaked the soil in dark stains. The wounded moaned softly as corpsmen did their best to keep them stable. Debris from the convoy still smoldered, vehicles split open like tin cans. The sky, once bright with gunfire, now carried only the low thrum of approaching helicopters. Reinforcements arrived. Too late for the worst of it. Right on time for the aftermath. And me? I went back to work. No one told me to. I didn't wait for orders. I just picked up my pack and started checking vitals. Field splints, oxygen, pressure bandages. The same calm, methodical movements. Like I hadn't just killed more enemies in an hour than most soldiers do in a deployment. Some of the new arrivals gave me strange looks. A medic, working triage in the dirt with a rifle leaning beside her. But the SEALs who'd survived the fight didn't blink. They knew now. One by one, they approached. Not to question, but to help. Reyes among them. Hauling water, bandages, whatever I needed. I didn't say much. Neither did they. Because the men who survive a battle like that, they don't talk about it right away. They carry it. A fresh-faced medic arrived with the second wave, probably her first time at a live forward post. She stood stiff as she handed me a pack of gauze. You're Vega, right? I nodded, still focused on the chest wound I was sealing. They said you saved an entire SEAL unit by yourself. I didn't look up. They saved themselves. I just made sure they stayed standing. She hesitated. But they said your shots. Doesn't matter, I said quietly. But it does, she insisted. I mean, I've never seen. I cut her off with a glance. Not unkind. Just final. Names and legends are for medals, I told her. Not medics. Just remember your training, work fast, stay calm. That's what saves people. She nodded, swallowing the rest of her questions. Later that evening, I returned to the tent that passed for an infirmary. Cleaned my gear. Checked my notes. Filed reports. You wouldn't know what had happened by looking at me. I didn't limp. I didn't speak of it. I just resumed my role. And yet, everything had changed. The next morning, the base commander showed up outside the med tent. He asked to speak with me alone. I read the after action, he said, eyes heavy. I also read your old file. Took some digging. I didn't reply. I need to apologize, he continued. We failed you. We failed to see. You saw what I wanted you to, I said. He looked at me a long time, then sat across from me. Why'd you leave Black Echo? I paused. My voice, when it came, was soft. Because I could kill a man from over a mile away, but I couldn't save my team from a mortar blast. I was the best shot alive, and it didn't matter when the fire hit from above. I couldn't carry 7 bodies home. So I left. He nodded slowly. And you became a medic. I needed to do something that saved lives instead of ending them. And yet yesterday, he started. Yesterday, I didn't have a choice. I finished for him. He leaned forward. You're not just a medic, Vega. You're a guardian. I met his eyes. Don't call me that. Don't make this bigger than it was. I'm not a symbol. He sighed. Then what do I put in the citation? I raised an eyebrow. Citation? There's going to be one. The squad is insisting on it. I looked away. I don't want it. He blinked. You're declining recognition? Let the medal go to the men who bled and kept fighting. I'm just the one who didn't let them die. He didn't argue. He just stood and saluted me. I didn't return it. Not because I didn't respect him, but because that wasn't the kind of honor I needed. Outside, I heard the first rumors spread. Quiet whispers between units. Hushed retellings. You hear about the medic on Ridge 7? She was Kraken. Or Echo. Or Ghost something. No, she was just a medic. A damn good one. That was the version I hoped would last. No myths. No grandeur. Just the truth. That sometimes, the quiet ones, the overlooked, the ones with hands made for healing, can be the ones who turn the tide. In the weeks that followed, life returned to routine, at least, what passes for routine at a forward operating base near conflict lines. I patched sprained ankles, treated dehydration, stitched up minor lacerations. Same as before. Except now, eyes followed me. Not out of suspicion, out of reverence. The same men who once stepped around me now stepped beside me. The same soldiers who whispered doubts now sought my advice, not just in first aid, but in tactics, positioning, even morale. One of them, a corporal named Nash, asked to walk with me after rotation. You mind if I ask something personal? I kept walking. Most things about me are personal. Fair, he said, then hesitated. I've been thinking. About that day? I didn't respond. He went on. You didn't just save us. You kept your hands steady while the rest of us were falling apart. How'd you do it? I stopped, turned slightly. The evening sun was low, casting everything in amber light. I've already fallen apart once, I said. It's easier to stay whole when you know what breaking feels like. He nodded, absorbing that. Then he asked the question I dreaded most. You ever miss it? I didn't have to ask what he meant. The sniper's perch. The kill zone. Being the sharp end. I let out a breath. Sometimes yes, but not for the reason people think. I don't miss killing. I miss the clarity. In combat, every choice matters. Out here, day to day, it's quieter, messier. The lines blur. He was silent for a moment. That's heavy. So's the kit, I said, nudging the medic bag on my shoulder. He laughed quietly. Then he asked, do you think it was fate? That you were there that day? I think fate doesn't shoot straight, I said. Preparation does. A few days later, new orders came down. The squad I had helped save was being rotated home. Before they left, Reyes found me at the supply station, helping a green medic organize inventory. He waited until we were alone. I wanted to thank you again. Officially. You already did. No, he said. That was as a soldier. This is as a man. I looked up, searching his eyes. I was wrong about you, he said. All of us were. We didn't see the strength because we were looking in the wrong places. I nodded. You weren't wrong. You were just early. He offered a small, sad smile. You gonna tell the next unit who you are? No, I said. They need a medic, not a ghost. He looked like he wanted to argue, then thought better of it. Before he left, he said one last thing. There are legends about you now. Ignore them, I replied. He didn't. When the unit shipped out, they left something behind in the barracks, a small plaque. Unofficial, unmarked. Just a silhouette of a kneeling figure, rifle in one hand, bandage in the other. No name, no rank. Just one word etched in steel. Protector. I didn't cry. I didn't hang it up. I just placed it in the drawer under the med tent desk and went back to work. There were wounds to treat, supplies to log, and new soldiers who didn't know my name, just the way I preferred it. A month passed. New faces rotated in. They saw me as just another medic, short and quiet, always the first to volunteer for the worst shifts. They didn't see the plaque hidden in my drawer. They didn't hear the whispers from those who'd left. And I didn't tell them. Because that day on the ridge, what I did, it wasn't about reputation. It was about necessity. Still, not everyone let the story fade. One afternoon, as I cleaned and inventoried a stack of emergency tourniquets, a young soldier approached, Private Heller. Barely old enough to shave, eyes too wide for this war. He fidgeted. Ma'am, I heard something. About you. I didn't look up. There's a lot of rumors in this place. They said you used to be part of a Black Ops sniper unit. That you saved an entire SEAL team during the ambush last month. Drop 20 plus enemies by yourself. I finished wrapping the last tourniquet. And they say you don't talk about it. That you just keep treating blisters and heat rash like none of it happened. Now I looked up. What would you rather I do? Boast about it? No, ma'am, he said quickly. I guess I wanted to know if it was true. I stood, stretched my back, wiped my hands. You want to know if I'm the legend from those stories? I asked. He nodded. I'm not, I said. I'm the reason a lot of men made it home. But I'm also the reason I had to do it. Because no one expected it from me. Because no one else could. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. Before he left, I added, let the stories go private. But remember the lesson. What lesson, ma'am? That the quiet ones, the ones you overlook, sometimes they're the reason you live to see another dawn. Later that week, we ran a field trauma drill for the new medics. I was partnered with a young woman named Antonelli. Bright, but nervous. She kept fumbling with her gear, dropping her pressure bandage twice. Sorry, she muttered. I'm not good under pressure. I watched her, then gently took the bandage and showed her a trick, how to fold and hold it with one hand while applying with the other. You will be, I said. You just need to stop listening to the doubt in your head. She looked at me. You seem so calm. Like nothing rattles you. Everything rattles me, I said. I've just learned how to rattle back. That night, the base commander stopped by the infirmary again. He carried a file, my personnel record. He set it on the desk beside me. You're being considered for reassignment, he said. HQ wants to know if you'll rejoin Advanced Field Command. Maybe even teach sniping at Black Echo's training camp in Nevada. I didn't even open the folder. No, I said. He wasn't surprised. Why not? Because I'm not a sniper anymore. I'm a medic. That's what I chose. They could use your mind, your eye, your precision. I looked him dead in the eye. And who would teach this next crop how to stop bleeding, sir? Who'll hold the hands of the ones who aren't going to make it? Who'll tell them they did good, even when they didn't win? He nodded, respected it. You're the only one I've met who turned their back on power willingly. It's not turning my back, I said. It's turning towards something better. He stood. If you ever change your mind. I won't, I replied. And I didn't. Because no medal, no kill count, no whispered legend could match the feeling of stabilizing a soldier under fire and knowing they'd see their family again. I wasn't done here. Not even close. Monsoon season crept in slow but heavy. The air turned thick. Boots sank in mud. Infection cases spiked. New soldiers arrived with fresh gear and wide eyes, unaware that the ground they walked had been bought with fire. And I remained at the heart of it. A medic by title. A protector by necessity. Words still trickled in, of course. Units from nearby outposts whispering about the woman with surgeon's hands and a sniper's calm. She moves like she sees time before it happens, someone said. I heard it in passing, ignored it as I always did. Let them speak. I had no room for legends. One night, a call came through just after dusk. IED on Route Gator. 2 Humvees down. Casualties incoming. I was already moving before command finished the sentence. We met the first evac convoy at the wire. For wounded, 1 critical. Burns. Shrapnel. Head trauma. I triaged without hesitation, my fingers moving before my thoughts could catch up. Med tent. Prep for a collapsed lung. I shouted. I need suction and saline now. The younger medics snapped into motion. Antonelli stood firm beside me, her hands no longer shaking. She didn't flinch when we cut open a chest cavity or when blood spurted across her boots. Afterward, as we cleaned our tools, she looked at me and said, I kept thinking I couldn't do this, but I heard your voice in my head. What was I saying? She smiled faintly. Rattle back. I chuckled. Good. You did. Later that evening, as I walked the compound perimeter to clear my head, I found Nash leaning against the sandbags. He handed me a dented flask. Not regulation, he said, but we all bend the rules for the ones who save us. I took a small sip. Warm, biting. Don't get used to it, I said, handing it back. He stared across the open stretch beyond the wire. You know, I used to think strength was loud, big, obvious. And now? I asked. Now I think it's the medic who doesn't blink when the shooting starts, who keeps the whole unit breathing and still never asks for thanks. We stood in silence. Then he added, You ever think about writing it down? Your story? I shook my head. Stories like mine, they're only good when someone else tells them. Otherwise, it just sounds like a soldier trying to sound like a hero. You're wrong, he said. You're exactly what the new ones need to hear. But I knew the truth. I wasn't here to be remembered. I was here to keep others from being forgotten. In the days that followed, Command posted new commendations. A special citation, sealed to most eyes, landed on my desk. It was for actions taken in extreme combat conditions during Ridge Ambush number 47. Signed by a general. It carried one sentence at the bottom. Unknown sniper identified as Operative Ghost Lance. Status, resolved. I folded it once and slid it into a drawer. Didn't even lock it. No secrets anymore. That night, I wrote a single line in my journal. I didn't survive to be remembered. I survived so others could. And then I went asleep. No dreams. Just rest. Months passed. New deployments cycled through. Some stayed weeks. Others mere days. Each brought fresh chaos and new wounds. Through it all, I remained, steady, constant, unseen by most. But not all. Word spread, quietly, like campfire smoke, of the medic who saw with sniper's eyes. Who never missed. Who saved more than she ever killed. One morning, as I prepped the infirmary for another long day, a staff sergeant walked in. Older. Decorated. The kind who'd seen real war and survived it. You Vega? Yes. He looked around, then stepped closer. You were Black Echo, weren't you? I didn't answer. He lowered his voice. My unit fought south of Nurak. We heard what happened there. Rumors. One sniper took out 3 recon teams and held an evac corridor open for 17 minutes alone. Rumors, I said. He studied me. The story goes that sniper vanished after. Disappeared like a ghost. I didn't blink. Maybe they wanted peace. He nodded. Or maybe they wanted to stop carrying the weight. That, I couldn't deny. As he left, he added one last thing. You may not want a legacy, but you already have one. That afternoon, a storm rolled in, violent, sudden. A medevac crashed just outside the wire. We ran. No time for thought. Just instinct. 3 survivors. 1 trapped in the wreckage. I crawled in. The smoke was thick, metal groaning above me. Flames licking the edges. I found the pilot pinned, legs shattered, blood loss extreme. I'm going to get you out, I told him. He looked at me with dazed eyes. They said there was a legend out here. A medic who doesn't fear fire. I fear plenty, I said, securing the tourniquet. I just do it anyway. We got him out. Just in time. The next morning, Antonelli passed me a folded note. From the pilot. You don't know me, but I know what you did. Thank you for the life I still have. I'll never forget your hands, steady as hell, pulling me from that wreckage. I don't care what they say you were. I know what you are. You're who we all hope shows up when everything else falls apart. I tucked it beside the citation in my drawer. Didn't frame it. Didn't need to. That night, I stood beneath the stars, rifle in storage, medical kit freshly cleaned. A young recruit passed by, saluted. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, I replied. He hesitated. They say you used to be someone. I looked at him, smiled gently. I still am. Because the truth is simple. I am who I choose to be. Every day, not a ghost, not a myth, not a killer, a medic, a protector, a woman who once shattered enemies from a mile out, and now holds together lives with threads and hope. Because strength isn't in the shot fired. It's in the hand extended. And I will keep extending mine until the day I fall for good. Let them whisper. Let the legends grow. I have no need for applause, only for purpose. And I've found mine.